Unipod, the podcast for all things management software.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unipod, the podcast for all things management software. And today we are with the amazing Jannik Abraham, which will tell us everything he knows about managing and leading a property management software. And he will take us into the more specifics of the vertical he is serving. So, Jannik, thanks for coming in today, and I'm really excited to have you here. Please just go ahead, introduce yourself, and let us know what brought you into the management software world.
Thank you for having me. That's a tough intro to follow now.
I do it so many times, so feel free to wobble.
So who am I and what brought me into management software? So I do have a background in business and finance, and I've been in the startup world for quite a bit now. I've seen different industries, not necessarily only management software, but ranging from trade finance and oversee trade finance products to employee staffing solutions. But I've always been fascinated with the software aspects of it. So always what do you handle certain operations via software? What are you using yourself? What are you not using yourself? And I've had the fortune to go into the vacation rental management software space 3 years ago when I joined Smoobu as managing director. And it's been a blessing and I love it so far. It's we came here via a contact in the travel industry already, got the intro to potential opening and joining Smoobu as the new managing director at the time. And I always love travel. So we do build software for small vacation rental hosts, meaning if you have a vacation rental and you list on Airbnb, Booking.com or different platforms, VRBO, you do need to synchronize your calendars, you do need to manage your properties and so on and so forth. So this is what we do. And I've always been fascinated with that space because everybody says it, but I also do. I do love to travel, do usually travel in vacation rentals. So I don't think, I wouldn't know when was the last time I've actually privately used a hotel to travel. I've done it for business. That I gotta admit, that sometimes happens. But I still love the industry. It's a beautiful
not completely
place.
gone from the world.
They have their place. And the beauty of the travel industry is everything has their place. It's not mutually exclusive. That's also what I love about the industry. It's a really nice playing field to play. And that's also one of the things I love. It's not mutually exclusive. You do find your space. You have a global industry. You have different players. You have different niches, and they all serve their purpose. And this is in the end what made me come here, but also what makes me stay here and what I pretty much love about the industry.
Nice. Okay. I'm happy that you really enjoy also the industry and not only the software space, because sometimes I guess it takes a bigger part of it. And for those of you who are not driving right now and can watch the video, I'll ask Jannik to just show you the beautiful background that he has, because explain a little bit about that, because we're talking about vacations and
yeah.
Oh my
so
God.
we already had a quick chat about this. I am currently in one of our meeting rooms. In our office, we do have different meeting rooms based on themes and destinations. So as we are a travel management company, we do try to also incorporate that in our everyday office lives. And this is my most favorite room, called the Treehouse. And it is basically including the tree that we have here, which is physically there. And
Wow, that's
we
wild.
also we try to theme the different meeting rooms so they're also a bit more fun, instead of naming them Berlin 303 or whatsoever. But the treehouse, we have Tamarama Beach next door, which is, as far as I know, in Australia. We do have different locations upstairs, the Bali Bungalow, the Austrian Mountain Lodge, and so on and so forth. So they're quite fun. They're all designed by employees. So there is no, how do you say, interior designer involved. But
Wow.
I do love it. Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. How many employees do you have?
At Smoobu, we are currently at around 100 people in total.
Okay, wow. And so you said you started 3 years ago you were fascinated by software, you liked vacations. This sounds like the greatest opportunity um or the perfect opportunity for you. Can you explain like a little bit where the company or the business was at the time, what it was doing? Because I want to like later understand the journey that you went through with it and how it evolved since then. So tell us a little bit more about the beginning.
Yes. So I've joined in June 2022. Previously, the company was originally founded in 2014. The first product went live in the beginning of 2017, so there was a bit of ramp up phase. The company was until 2021 a bootstrap company built by the founders for vacation rental hosts from vacation rental hosts, so making management easier. Then in 2021, the company was acquired by Home to Go Group. It's also an online travel agency based out of Berlin. And at one point, we decided to also, for the founders and also with the management, that we still want to run Smoobu independently and really get that software aspect of it going, and also have this move from bootstrap startup to scale up. And for that move, in the end, I also had the pleasure to specifically come in and, how do you say, accompany that transition from smaller bootstrap startup with processes that are very founder dependent to actually make it a company that you can also scale through globally and also put on a good growth trajectory. I think at the time when I joined, we were 20-ish people, including the founders, where the processes were very based on the founders itself and everyone reporting to them. And coming from a bootstrap background, which worked very nice, and I still love the spirit of it because you do make things happen with less. But we also needed to lay the foundation to actually scale that farther and farther into the future and out of Europe, and now also think a bit more globally, and also in terms of structures that you implement, that things not only work with for 20 people or for 1,000 customers or 5,000 customers, but also for quite a bit more in the end.
Nice. Okay. Sounds like an interesting journey, and we'll definitely go into that later. But first, can you explain a little bit what's the difference between, because I'm as a traveler familiar with Airbnb and booking, and that's it, I think. But I'm a traveler and I'm not a host. So I guess that's one of the differences. But can you explain in further detail about the vacation rental management software and what it does?
Yeah. So in vacation rental management, and I'll try to phrase it as simple as possible for the usual traveler point of view. As you perfectly pointed out, there are major platforms out there that do offer, or the big platforms were called OTAs, meaning online travel agencies. Fun fact, quite a big percentage of travel is still booked offline these days. And that is quite a big double-digit percentage that we're talking here, depending on the country. I can never believe that, but it still happens, and it's amazing.
What do
So
you
not
mean that
every,
a person goes into the hotel physically and he says, I want to stay here for the night?
for
Oh,
example, that also happens quite a
uh-huh.
bit more in more rural countries. That also happens, that people just walk up to vacation rentals where it's say, hey, here's the bed's still open or vacancy. That still happens. People call. You would also say offline booking if you go into a physical travel agency and book something.
Ah, okay.
Or if you, for example, go and write an email to the hotel, to the vacation rental owner and say, hey, do you have vacancy at this certain point in time? And then you go, oh, no, I don't have vacancy, and this back and forth. So no direct booking online. But that
Okay.
still is a big chunk where I don't know when I did that the last time, to be honest. I always think everything is online and direct booking, but it really is not. So, but still, let's think of a world where Airbnb and Booking.com make the biggest share. Then you have in the US, for example, and a bit of your VRBO, which is quite a big platform. As a European platform, you have Home to Go as an OTA, which is quite big, especially in Germany and Central Europe. And you have also different niche portals. So you can think as a host, and I'm specifically talking about private small hosts now. So I think you have 1, 2, 3 vacation rental units that you have somewhere and that you want to rent out. So you put those on an Airbnb, on a booking.com, on a VRBO. The tricky part is now you have an account on all those platforms. You need to synchronize your calendars. You need to have synchronized prices. You need to do the messaging with the guests. You need to take care of different tasks around the house, send a digital guest guide, have the lock code or the check-in instructions sent to your guests. What you don't want to do is do all of that on each platform on their own. So you want to synchronize all of that into one platform, into one calendar, into one management software, which is what, for example, we and also others do for you. So you have it all in one place. So on the one hand, you save time with having it all centrally. You do have advantages of it because what you really want to avoid is that you get what is called a double booking, meaning that if you do not have your calendar synchronized in real time, if you get a booking on Airbnb and you get a booking on booking.com at the same time, you have to cancel one of them. And if you do that, you're gonna get penalties. I'm trying to check my language now. You're gonna get big penalties on the search algorithm on the respective platform where you cancel. So the one thing you desperately want to avoid is those double bookings. There's hell to pay if you have to do that from your ranking perspective, but also from the operation hassle, because you have to cancel one guest, you have to search for alternative accommodation, and the worst case, you also have to pay for that.
Okay. Okay, I
This
see.
is this is the very essence of what is called channel management, and in the end also property management system. So that is why the very basic and surface of why you need a software for your vacation rental.
Okay, yeah, I think I understand. So just to make sure I got it. I, for example, now traveled to Japan and I wanted to sublet my apartment and I posted it both on Airbnb. My husband did that actually, and I posted it on Facebook. So we even got this problem of this double booking, and that's like what you are helping the hosts avoid, right? This
Yes.
double booking situations by synchronizing between the calendars.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So are there any other vacation rental management softwares in the market, or is this like something very specific, unique for hosts alone?
I've lost you there for a second. I think the
Yeah,
question
sorry.
was, are there
Okay.
other vacation rental softwares in the market?
Yeah, is it like a vertical that you see other software serving, or is it a special unique problem that you identified or the founders identified and you're working to fix?
So there are other softwares in the market. So the market and the vertical is a bit split up in between different things. So what you have in vacation rental management is the privately hosted and owned vacation rentals. So you as a private person host 1, 2, 3, can also be a lot of units, or you take your vacation rental and give it to a property manager. And they take care of all the operations and you in the end get a check for it.
Okay.
It depends a bit on the countries, but on average around the world, the split between this is 50-50. So you already have two verticals in the space for vacation rental management software. You have the software that is needed for property managers, which are not the owners, so that different things that this software needs to do. And you have the software for private hosts. Now we only
And
take care of the
you
software for
do the
private
private
hosts.
host.
Exactly. We only take care of those. So there are also other softwares for those private hosts. And we always say is a niche market or it's a smaller vertical, it is still a massive market. So if you think about that, the vacation rental industry in itself processes a volume of, and I think Booking and Airbnb alone, they process just for vacation rentals, not the hotel part of Booking.com, close to 200 or more billion dollars in gross booking value a year. Those two platforms alone, and they are not the whole market, as I mentioned before. So there is a lot of volume in there, and 50% of that is private hosts that they process. So there is a certain need for professionalizing the hosts in that segment. And this is literally what we try to do as a software, and as a software and as a service in the end, we try to help those private hosts become and be more professional and get them all the tools that they need to actually succeed as much as possible in their business. And yes, there are other softwares out there. It's not that there are 10,000s of players out there. There are, I think, 10 to 20 worldwide for the private hosts that are actually at a certain size. Even less, actually, if you compare the actual size, we're, I would say, globally probably top 5 at least, because they're all privately held. So in the end, we don't know. But we are very much in the top there globally for that private host segment. Yes, there are other players out there, but there are much more crowded markets out there as well.
Yeah, but still it's a unique vertical, at least for me, and it sounds like it's pretty developed. So developed that there are also niche sub verticals that I couldn't even think of. So okay, so I think we get like a cool. You gave us like a cool overview of the vertical and what exactly Smubu does. So can you tell us about, you started talking about the volume of the market. Is Smubu doing any of this payments, or is this all held by the big, I don't know how you call, so you are the vacation rental management software and Airbnb will be the
OTA.
OTA.
Yes.
So, or is that held only by the OTA?
So you have actually both. What we offer for hosts, as we try to professionalize them as well, we offer a feature, which is you can build your own website with us very easily. Based on all the data you have in the management software, you can very easily design and build your own website with your own, I'm trying to search for the English word, the book, what we call a booking engine. So you not only have the website that says, hey, welcome to Chalet Jannik, it is here, but you also have the engine basically that says, hey, you select the dates and you can directly book, etc., which is, it's also connected then in the end to our calendars and so on and so forth. So you also have the possibility to get what we call direct bookings, where you don't have to pay commission to the OTAs, respectively Airbnb or Booking.com. So this is also something we offer. And on the one hand side, at the moment, payments that go through the OTAs are handled by the OTAs. Also, for legal and compliance reasons, that is something they take care of, luckily, because otherwise that gets a bit tricky for us. But you have the possibility to process the payments on those direct bookings that we offer.
Okay.
We currently work with a payment provider for this, but we're also looking into basically offering potentially next year our own solutions to make it more attractive for hosts to actually also use that solution integrated.
Okay, cool. Interesting. So you started talking about this very specific feature, and we also kind of like touched the scheduling feature, which is, I think I can safely say, is the basic or main part of the software. Is there any other interesting, funny, I don't know what, weird feature in your software that you can share us a story about? Usually it starts from like crazy user requests and then they become to actually very popular features. I don't know if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about something that the audience can potentially relate to. So there are hundreds of quirks in the software that are very specific to vacation rental hosts and how they do stuff. I'm not going to go into those. The feature I like, or I think that is most relatable, is might be the automatic creation and then send out a management of what we call a digital guest guide or guest book. So previously, years ago, you could think of if
Oh,
you go
cool.
into a vacation rental, you have this lovely book that says, hey, those are the restaurants near, this is how the house rules, yada, yada, yada. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
all
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
That
yeah.
obviously you can also do digitally and send it out pre the check-in or to certain dates. So you have scheduling features for this. And why I love this is basically also another feature that allows the hosts to, on the one hand side, individualize themselves and deliver a bit more value to the stay. And on the other hand, there are also possibilities of upselling there because you can offer services or stuff that you want to do around the house, around the stay.
Cool.
So obviously, if you say, hey, in the guest guide, hey, there's also the possibility to rent kayaks because I'm at a lake or something like this. This is also you can
Cool.
offer. But why I love this feature is we obviously in the software have the possibility to look into that stuff if we need to help a host or whatever. The amount of individualization and stuff that hosts put in there always amazes me, and things you can do. And every time you look at something, you probably learn something new. And there might be from very positive examples to very well and concisely written and pointing out all the hotspots and giving the guests the right info at the right time and also in different steps and what they should do and what they shouldn't do, up to also negative examples where we had an example of a place that provided like I think even 45 pages document of house rules, what to do and not to do, which was, and I got the feedback actually, a friend of mine stayed there but that was too much and they almost gave a very not good review because it was too much and too restricting and they just wanted to have a nice stay and don't need to read 45 pages of house rules. So there are funny stories in there in general. There are also always funny stories with guests and hosts in general, or how people name their vacation rentals, which I find quite funny. I'm trying to find something on top of my head, but there are a lot of puns in there oftentimes in the name of vacation rentals. But I think the guest guide it's always a good example of how hosts creativity can come into play.
Yeah, and I think it's an amazing feature because it doesn't only give the end user or the traveler value, it also gives the host another value that the OTA doesn't provide, right? I never
Yeah.
went into like a guidebook inside Airbnb or something like that. So it sounds like as a traveler, it's really something cool to have and a nice interaction with the host. And also for the host, it's the place to like you said, individualize themselves. And yeah, that's something I didn't expect hearing. So I'm happy. I'm happy you found the example. Um, okay, so um, is there a feature that along the way you decided to shut down or that you changed your mind about or you understood was a mistake at some point or just overcomplicated things? And like, what did you learn from that experience?
That's a very good question. I don't think we've ever had to kill one big feature per se yet. There are certainly stories along the way where we didn't go right with the UX and had to change a couple of things based on user feedback and the actual behavior we saw, not necessarily only the feedback. I think one good example that also had a big learning for us and for myself personally, as I mentioned before, we also offer the possibility of building your own website via Smoogle with the information you have about your vacation rental, making that easy. We had a very outdated and old version up until the beginning of the year. And we decided throughout the last year that we needed to upgrade that and basically offer a newer version with more possibilities for individualization and also more advanced features in the end that we can also build upon for the future. So we launched a new version or a new website builder, if you want to say it, in the beginning of the year. And now also basically told the user base that we're going to discontinue the old website builder. First, we thought we can migrate everyone until the middle of the year. We now extended the deadline towards the end of the season, or when the season for the vacation rental host is actually over, meaning end of October. And we had several learnings there. On the one hand side, we underestimated the complexity it has for hosts to set up that new website builder coming from the old one. because
Mhm.
our software is all about keeping it simple, having that simplicity in for the private host. There is no need for the whole shebang and a lot of complexity, but really keep it simple and focus to make it easy to use. And in that instance, especially for the migration, we did not make it easy enough and simple enough to migrate into use, which I do keep myself accountable for this, and I'm rather angry with myself that we did not do that as we do everything else with the software and just said, hey, there is a new wonderful website builder with amazing capabilities, and it really does. But we didn't keep in mind that also the migration it's not a bit of a hassle, but you basically just need to launch a new website builder, which now has more functionality, and that can be a challenge for some hosts. And that was something we did not do perfectly well the last couple of years. And especially also with the date. We put the date in the middle of the season, where we then very quickly realized, okay, that does not make sense. Give the users more time. There is no need for us to migrate super quickly, and especially keep their needs and their time in mind, because in the end, we are there to support them and save their time. And that was a big learning for us, where we said, okay, that was, excuse my French, kind of a fuck up that we did not think that through thoroughly. Luckily, it's something that is easily amended and extended in terms of a deadline, but still it haunts me to this day that this was not properly executed.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing the story, because I think it's important to share also these parts of building a management software. And I think it's a very easy trap to fall into. Like, you imagine something better, something greater for your users, and you really want to execute it right away. And you know that it's going to give them tons of value, and you really want it to make it happen for good reasons. But yeah, obviously, these hosts or these users are also very occupied with a lot of things. And even if it looks easy, it sometimes can be very terrifying for them. So I think it's important just to, like you say, easily amend it and really listen to the feedback that you get, and not be afraid to say, hey, well, this was a big dream, but we need to like cut it down into pieces, and or like set proper time for that. So I think it's a great lesson, and thank you for sharing this story.
Anytime.
So one of the topics I like to bring to the podcast is pricing of management software. So can you like walk us through the tiers maybe that you have, and the pricing model, freemium, no freemium, free trial, no free trial, how it evolved, kind of like experiments you had with pricing?
Yeah. It's one of my, I don't want to say favorite, but probably one of the topics I think and thought about the most the last year. It is a very, I think, tricky space in general. So how do we do it at Smoobu at the moment? We do have 3 different tiers for subscriptions. We do have a free trial, so 14 days where you can use the software and all the features that we offer, except 1 or 2 premium features that are also a bit more advanced. So we specifically do not want hosts in the beginning to use them, to not overload them. In the end, one of those is what's called dynamic pricing feature. So it automatically amends your prices to reflect data that you as a host might not have for far pricing or events that come to town and so on. So that we don't offer in the free trial to not overload the experience, but we do have 14 days free trial, and then you can choose one of 3 tiers basically. The first tier being a more basic, and we call it professional flex plan, because you have a lower base fee and you would pay 1% of your overall booking volume to us as a fee. That is per se designed for entry users that want to minimize their risk in the end and not commit to a higher software price, but want to keep it flexible, as the name says. That usually,
so actually there is no commitment fee. There's no fixed fee. It's just like 1% of the reservations.
it also includes a fixed fee. but a smaller one than
Okay.
the other plans. So you have both. We are looking into potentially amending this a bit again, and either
That's interesting.
having a lower
Why?
fee, but to keep the flexibility higher for hosts, to have a more entry level solution. But that is still out in the future for now. As a second tier, we do have what we call professional prepaid, which include most of the main features and stuff that you have. It's currently, if you look at the European prices, 35 euros per month for one property, and we do charge per additional property right now. So you have a base fee, and you for every additional property that you add, we currently charge additional seats. So it's basically more or less a seat-based software, if you will. So a
Then
little
it
bit of an
also has
abstract level.
this percentage, this
No,
volume percent. No. Okay.
no, the middle software, we only charge subscription fees for the amount of properties and some other add-ons that you might want to add. But there is no percentage fees of your bookings. As opposed to a lot of other softwares out there, this is something we do not do in the
Interesting.
main tiers. And
Can I
95% of the
ask?
people are in that plan. To keep it flexible for the hosts. In the end, the host already has to give away around 15% on average to the OTAs in commissions. And we want to create that value. We want to give that value to the host. So if we do take a piece of the cake, it has to have a reason for us. And that might either be, for example, offering payments on our booking website or something like this. But per se, what we currently do is offer the software and the services for that. And this is why we choose to charge only the subscription fee right now.
Okay, that's interesting. But did you experiment so why, for example, in the lower tier, you do have the percentage and then for the middle tier, you don't have it? Because it's counterintuitive for me. I would imagine that, if there's a higher volume, then someone uses the middle tier or even the advanced tier, and then you do want to take a percentage of the volume.
I would want to do that, yes. And it would also be much more attractive financially for us, but for the host, it wouldn't be. That's
Okay.
That's very much the point.
So
It
it's
becomes very
it's
quickly
something
very
that
expensive.
it's something that keeps you competitive in the market,
Yes.
if I understand correctly. Okay. Okay, fair enough. Well, yeah, when there are more and more softwares and you need to stay competitive, then I guess that's something that you must give as value sometimes. And I think that's also an interesting point about pricing, where you need to make sure that the value, like you said actually before, that value comes first, and then the revenue or your business
Yeah.
comes next, and it really needs to make sense. So that's important. And what about churn? How do you deal with churn? Do you have a lot of churn, or is it like something that usually you just plug in and you keep using? Were there any certain campaigns or things that you did to reduce churn?
So luckily, churn is not completely out of control. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here, I guess. It's I think churn for us is an interesting topic because you have different aspects of it. You on the one hand side have very different user behaviors across the globe through this or in this vacation rental market. So for example, we do have a very strong foothold in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, so the German speaking market, where you have traditionally a more year-round tourist population and travel behavior, where also people also from the mindset, and the Germans just like to commit to stuff longer term and are not as jumping around. So they usually commit to more long-term contracts, and the churn is also much lower. So you have a much higher baseline. And usually also our software is a thing that you plug in and have it run until you either grow out of it or you go out of business. So on the other hand, you do have, for example, Southern European markets where also the vacation rental business is much more fluctuating throughout the year and dependent on the season, where you do see a bit more seasonal churn that you see, for example, you have more people committing to monthly contracts. going out of it in the winter, for example, and coming back when season picks up again. So you do have different patterns around the globe. That is one thing for churn. And it is tricky because we have a second aspect that is, I don't want to call it challenging because there's nothing we can do about it, literally. There is the aspect of people selling their vacation rental and or putting it as a long-term rental. That is, there are two reasons of churn that we can't really argue about, because in the end, if they don't have a vacation rental anymore, they're not going to need our software. And if they decided to put it as a long-term rental, then there is also little need for us in the software. So that is a general point for churn. Now, what worked well for us in the end is to have people or hosts use the software more. So what we try to do is reduce churn by improving the stickiness of the software. So what you want to do is throughout the host journey, and again, with keeping it simple in mind, when they start out their journey, have them use the basic features, have them use the starter steps and get into it. But the more advanced hosts get, the more features they should use, the more of our features they should use, but also the more integration of, for example, third parties they should use to improve their business and their operations. And by this, the more things you also have connected to your Smoothwall account, which you can basically think of as the nucleus or the operating system of your vacation rental in the end, that everything is connected to, obviously the more stickier the software is. And we also do see that in our numbers, right? The more products, features, integrations hosts use, the lower the churn in the end. And that is the one thing that you can try to do for a software like ours to improve those numbers as much as possible.
Okay, nice. So you actually get to see, I now understand more how you get to see the worldwide vacation behavior because, like you mentioned, in Germany, it's one thing, and in East of Europe, it's something different. So it's not like you're only in your software box, but you really like get to experience the vacation rental world. It sounds cool. And yeah, definitely I think with every software journey or user journey in a software, you see that the more usage they get with the more they use the software, the stickier it becomes. Is there like a point in the user usage that you can say, okay, now I know that this user is stuck? Or like, do you have like some metrics that helps you identify those kind of sticky users that tell you, okay, at this point, I'm confident that he's happy, he's satisfied, and vice versa, right? Like if at some stage he still didn't turn on the integration with XYZ, then we need to reach out to them and check what's going on.
So to the 2 points in your answer, A, can I see how happy they are they logged in? And the other one, are they stuck somehow? So I think especially for management software, this users happy is extremely tricky because in the end, and I think that goes for most management softwares, it's a hygiene product. It needs to work. Users are not gonna be blown away by whatever happens in that software, but it needs to work. And then it's fine, it works. If it doesn't work, there is hell to pay. So there's usually always very severe operational consequences if a management software doesn't work. And that's similar for us, right? If prices don't get synchronized across platforms, you're losing revenue. If dates are blocked that shouldn't be blocked, you're losing out on occupancy and so on and so forth. It would be horrible. So on the one hand side, this how happy are users, and making users happy is a very tricky question. What we do know is, luckily, we can see the business side of it. So if they do get bookings in, if they do log in daily, if they just have a higher software usage and use different features in the software, we can somewhat assume that at least it's working and it's working for them, and they can smoothly run their operations. We also do see if there are problems, for example, in their operations. Now, on the other hand side, where do I see, or can I see that users are stuck or there are potential problems? We can already see that actually in the 14 days free trial. So we have a very clear indication if users will sign up with a 90%, 95% confidence actually, if they do connect one or two channels properly via the API, meaning either an OTA or their own website, they will sign up. There is a high likelihood of them signing up. And then what you will check next is, do they actually get bookings? So do they get reservations? Do they get guests actually staying with them? Which is kind of an important business feature. It sounds trivial and it is super simple, but those are one of our biggest indicators if usually through the first 6 months will actually stay with us. And it makes sense, right? If I use a management software and I connect something,
Of course.
fine, then I use the software. But if I then don't get any bookings, I'm just like, I'm out of here. Not necessarily our fault that they don't get any bookings, but still, there is no reason to use us if you don't get any bookings. Then you also don't get any
Yeah.
double bookings.
Yeah. Well, you don't really have something to do about it, but yeah, I guess it can apply to every single vertical. Like if there is a gym that signs up to your gym management software and this gym doesn't have any members, then you can expect it will churn. And what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, and that's I think where it gets interesting, right? Because especially for us in the sector for small and private hosts, there is a lot of education to do. You can actually help hosts be better. And we have a lot of shared content and webinars and educational activities and initiatives, for example, together with the OTAs, with an Airbnb, with a booking.com on how to optimize your listing, how to optimize descriptions, how to actually get bookings. Do I need new listing promotions when I put a new listing on there to get pushed in the ranking? How do I appear up there? There are things you can do. And this is actually, it's one of my passion parts for where we stop being only software, but actually start being the education and the growth partner of those hosts. And I love that part because it's not that hard, but it's still a lot of hosts don't know about it. So they can actually use that education. And I think there's always one of my favorite examples. We had a beautiful, I think, 3-bedroom apartment in the middle of Berlin, top-notch location, and it for whatever reason didn't convert. And actually our account manager from Airbnb brought it over and showed us, hey, by the way, this is one of the perfect examples why education can help and why it didn't convert, because the thumbnail picture, so the first preview picture that was in there was the guest bathroom. And
Genius.
there was an obvious reason that this one didn't convert, because if you go on the search and see that first picture, I'm just like, I'm not going to look at that flat, just like, what the hell? So it's sometimes that simple. Of course, there are a lot of nuances to it, but this educational part in the end is also where it gets super interesting.
Amazing story. And yeah, I really like this part about management software because, like you say, it's an essential part of the business, and you as a management software really have the power to help the user business grow and make them realize like things that look trivial for you, like who wants to see the toilet and sign up for a vacation in a toilet room. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point with management software that also differs between the good management software and the industry leading management software. So I also like to ask this question, like, what's the difference? But here, yeah, you already gave us the answer or the tip by helping your users grow and really making sure that that their business succeeds. So really interesting point. So did the conversion rate really go up after changing the picture?
It did go up. We did a couple of other optimizations on the listings, but yes, it did go up.
Okay, cool. So you actually teach them also how to optimize their listings.
So we do offer content for that. It is especially the educational part and how to get that to the user is one of my main topics for the next couple of months, because per se, we are a self-service software. So we do have a couple of tens of thousands of hosts, and we do have a very lean support and sales team. So we don't do classic account management because we have small hosts, right? They have 1, 2, 3, 4 properties on average. You don't have a dedicated account manager. So per se, the software is a self-service software. But what we try to do is either in the software with contextualization and or content that we can offer to hosts, help them self-optimize. Or we do webinars and use our partners like an Airbnb or so. I think one good example is I recently did a webinar for the German market with Airbnb, and in the end they could book their listing optimization with the local Airbnb team to walk through this. That was a huge success, and they got booking rates where they were quite amazed that our users are engaged. But what you try is basically how, on the one hand side, how can I use the software and the spaces in the software to try to educate people, but also to offer that content in the end for that. Because for us, we're at the very tricky space between B2B and B2C. Technically, they're hosts and they run a business, but the behavior is oftentimes, due to the size of it, very B2C like. So it is a very tricky place on how to place content, also how to differentiate, because we on the one hand side have one persona or type of user that is very not super technical, is at the very beginning of that journey, does things very basic, does not have a lot of knowledge. And on the other hand side, we have these hardcore vacation rental arbitrage people that want to scale their business and think super professionally and completely ROI driven, which would be very B2B like. So it is always a challenge, but that's offering that education and trying to get that to the user. I also haven't fully figured it out yet. I want to do more with it, and it is one of our essential strategy parts for the next couple of years, but I also haven't solved it fully yet.
Yeah, I think, well, that's maybe you can call it a challenge, that today there is so much content and so many softwares and so many options that it's really like hard to grab people's attention, create really high quality content that people really want to come and listen to. So definitely a challenge. And what you said about the small line between B2B and B2C is important, I guess, in this specific vertical. But also in general, I think that I heard this already several times with management software companies that serve SMEs, that as long as your management software is not like for enterprise companies, then the marketing strategy and the acquisition strategy really leans more towards the B2C, because they are human, they want to be treated like human, they search for content like normal human beings. So that's a good point to highlight for management software leaders. And yeah, I think we need to, I mean, time flies, but we need to get already into the last questions. I'll ask you, if you had double the budget tomorrow morning, what's the first thing you would do with it?
I love that question. I wish it were true. I would probably approach it from two angles that are, I would argue, completely the opposite of each other. On the one hand side, and I know probably everyone's going to say that, I would try to put more emphasis on AI, but for internal usage. So mostly to streamline operational processes within the company, make ourselves better, and actually have a more dedicated team for us. Because what I do see at the moment, there is a lot of AI out there and we can do a lot of it, yada, yada, yada. But I would want to have a dedicated team that can actually help everyone implement it as best as possible, and also push through dedicated proof of concepts for it. So does my new chatbot AI actually work the way I want to, or are there other softwares out there? Because comparing this, doing the research, finding different vendors or use cases is a lot of time invest on the operational teams itself. So there I would definitely want to invest and just have dedicated resources to push that into our business. And in the end, then afterwards also be able to push more solutions to our hosts, because there are also a lot of things that you can use in the vacation rental management industry for this. So that's the one hand side. And now I'm coming to the complete opposite. I would focus more on offline and community, actually, because vacation rental management is a very tight, very, for obvious reasons, local industry. People are very well connected to each other, and you would be surprised how hosts know each other and how local also communities are. So what I would like to do more is invest more in this community thinking, because hosts know their business, they know their, excuse my French, shit, and they have their stuff together. So do more casual events, get the hosts together, create knowledge sharing communities, invest more in those community events, get them together, have them share their stories or their knowledge, and also create a space, for example, within the Smoobu community to also help each other, but also help each other with topics that are not necessarily only software related. A couple of weeks back, I had the super nice, how do I say it? The event, not an event, but an instance on LinkedIn where one of our hosts had a super particular post about finding financing for his growth and so on and so forth. And I knew, I also have a host that is actually in that space with his day job and has a similar reason. So I connected the both, and like a day later, the first one called me just like, hey, I just wanted to say hi. It's we had an amazing talk and we actually could figure out some stuff. And those kind of things are, which brings me back to the B2C character also of the community and the business, is what in the end also drives retention. So if you connect this emotions and this feeling of community, and actually I can actually learn something, I can actually get something out of it more than just the software, which in the end can also drive retention quite a bit more, as opposed to big enterprise B2B software where I just say, hey, I get a better price there, same functionality, I don't care, I'm out of here. So
Amazing.
those would be the two opposites: invest more in offline and community building, and on the other hand, drive AI adoption through the company.
Yeah, AI automation and humanization. So I think these two parts really come nicely together. And although I can't double the budget for you, I wish you can still make it happen somehow. But thank you very much, Jannik. It was a pleasure having you on Unipod. And to all our listeners, I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.